All right. Okay, my background is blurred. I don't want it to be blurred. There we go. And what's that? All right, so pretty much, I started this podcast because I realized that I know a lot of amazing people who have done a lot of great things, but often in our community, we don't tell those stories, unless a person is honored at some award ceremony or something. Like the people who live next door to you, you rarely hear their stories and how they became who they are, right? And so I
Exactly.
wanted to allow people to tell their stories, share some of what they've been through so that other people who are, experiencing life or maybe even the next generation who's coming up behind us can get it out of their minds that the only way to be successful is to be a basketball player or to be, an entertainer or what have you. Like there are people who are doing fantastic things in the world and there's so many ways that we can engage with it. And so I wanted to share the stories of some of the people that I know who are doing those type of things. So
I appreciate that.
so that's kind of the preface of this whole thing. And so before we jump in and get started, first of all, I would love to introduce you, Mr. Edward Hearn, to my audience. Please, first of all, tell us who you are and what do you do, sir?
My name is Edward Hearn. I'm currently a DoD contractor for the Navy.
Okay, I mean, that's I see you got all this other stuff, your gear and all of that on or whatever. So I don't know if you wanted to mention anything about that as well.
Okay, yeah, I do uh amateur motorcycle road racing throughout California and Las Vegas area. So, doing things on two wheels, just living life on the edge, adrenaline junkie. So there you
Nice.
go.
Okay, okay. So you said that you work for the DOD. Now, a
Yes,
person who
ma'am.
was walking by you on the street probably wouldn't think that, right? And so that's another
Nah,
thing
not
that
at
I want to
all.
do. I want to challenge those images, those perceptions that people might have of what it looks to be like to what it looks like to be a person who does what you do. And so before we jump into like how you got to this point, I want to start at the beginning. So at the
Okay.
beginning, where were you born and how was your upbringing? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I was born in Los Angeles, California, at Harbor General.
Okay.
Uh, to my parents, Mosey and Mary Hearn, who are still married and will be 60 years married June 5th.
Wow.
Grew up in Gardena, California. Coming up, back then, your neighborhood was your village, coming up. So, not only did my parents raise me, but, my friends' parents raised me as well. And then, growing up, going to Percy Avenue Elementary School, which was right across the street. And then my mom ended up working there. So my mom was a yard teacher.
Okay.
So she kind of like was working, getting paid, and I guess watching out for me as well. So had that going on. And then after I graduated from Percy Avenue Elementary, I went to Robert E. Perry Junior High School, where I went there from seventh and eighth grade, and then that's when they started ninth grade being high school.
Hmm.
So went there seventh and eighth grade. Then ninth grade, I went to Gardena High and went there and did my thing. And then my junior year, I transferred to Crenshaw High School. And Went there for one semester. Um, just had to end up going back to Gardena just because the commute, with playing sports and catching the bus and everything every day, it just made it really, really hard to play sports, get enough sleep, plus do homework, stay on top of my grades. So I ended up going back second semester of my junior year. I ended up transferring back to Gardena, and I ended up going there, finishing out my junior and senior year, and graduated and tried to, play ball junior college. That wasn't working out. So I ended up
Mm.
enlisting in the United States Navy.
Okay, so pause. There were a couple of things that I heard that I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so I met you at Crenshaw, right?
You met me at Crenshaw, and it's funny how we met because it was my junior year, and me and you both had this avions class,
Oh.
and we were sitting in the class. You were sitting next to me, and it was funny how we met because we were doing some kind of papers or whatever, and Miss Avion was like, "All right, trade your paper with the person next to you." Okay, I had to trade my paper with you. So I give you my paper and everything, and I did horrible. You scored me horrible, and I was like, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me!" I'm like, "Really? You can't." I was like, "Oh shoot!" So had to pass the papers up. So Miss Avion, she went and told Coach Garrett, football coach. Next thing you know, I'm doing bear crawls at the end of the day, crawling from one end zone to the other, back, forth,
You
back,
told
forth.
coach on you.
So after that, I said, I'm never giving you my paper again to correct my paper. So yeah, and then I think if I'm not mistaken, I was practicing one day, and I wasn't sure if you were in cheer, song, and dance or something like
I was in
that.
the cheer. I was the captain of the cheerleader junior year.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay. So I remember seeing you while I was on the football field as well, and I was like, "Oh, and she cheer." I was like, "You done got me in trouble." So yeah, that's how we met at Crenshaw, and then that whole semester, we would like being had the same class, so we would talk here and there, and I started getting better since I knew you were grading my paper, so I had to. Because she always made us pass it to the right. I never got to pass to the left. If I would have passed it to the left, that was my teammate. It was
Right.
going.
He
He was
would have hooked
going.
you up. Oh
He would
man.
hook me up, but so
Honest
that's how
Abe.
that
Call me
happened.
honest Abe. I'm gonna be honest. Like, we gotta
Oh yeah.
mm-mm.
Yep. Yep. So I had to get it together because I didn't want to do no more bear crawls or nothing like that.
Oh, that
But
is
yeah, it was a good
hilarious.
experience.
I never knew that. Okay, and so you said after high school you were going to JC's playing sports or whatever. So your sport was football, right?
Played growing up. I played football, basketball, baseball, and track and field. I
Oh,
did
you
it
did a little bit
all.
of everything. Okay.
Yeah, but I understand growing up why my parents actually let me do all these sports because a lot of kids that were growing up with me wasn't doing all these sports. So,
Hmm.
but as I got older, I understood why my dad had me do all those sports. It was because the more I was focused on sports, the less he had to worry about me doing something idiotic on the street or joining some street gang or hanging out at the corner, And at that time, drive-bys were a big thing.
Hmm.
So he knew, hey, if I keep him engaged in sports, the streets can't have me.
You know
So
what? That is very true. I know a lot of mothers and fathers who think that way. They're like, if you are busy doing something constructive, then you don't have time to get into something that could, possibly destroy you, you out there
yeah,
being a silly kid and get caught up for life. And especially in
yeah,
LA, Gardena. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and that just followed me through high school. So high school, I just did every sport: football, basketball, baseball, track and field. So
Okay. Now that's interesting because many of our young boys, that's what they aspire to do. You ask a little boy what he want to do now. He wants to be LeBron. He wants to be Steph Curry. He wants to be, a football player, what have you. And so, how do we message to this next generation that yes, that's a great goal to have, but there are all these other things that are possibilities too. And you should expose yourself to everything so that you can decide what you like. If you never even try it, how do you know that you're good at it or not good at it? I don't know if that's even a way to get them to be interested. But what do you think as a man who's gone through this?
Just exposure. Just taking kids out, let them try different things. You want to try playing a musical instrument. They want to try, playing golf, or they want to try, working on a car, or working on a motorcycle, or cutting wood at a wood shop. Just different things of that nature, or just doing little electrical work.
But does the kid just automatically want to go do something like that? Because I'm thinking most of my little cousins that I see sitting around, they had their games or what have you, and we have to literally make them get off the game and go do something like go outside, go talk to each other, go play a game, not on the video game, no, but you know what I'm saying? Like we have to literally tear them away from it to get them to even try to do something else to see if they like it. And so how do we get kids to like want to go try to do something else?
Just take them out. Just
Got to
say,
make them go initially.
yeah, no, just tell them, hey, come check this out. I'm gonna show you something real quick. Hey, can you help me? I'm finna do these breaks. I need some help. Can you come help me?
Mm,
Do these breaks. Or hey, I gotta fix this, electrical outlet. But I don't have nobody to help me. Can you come help me do this? I really need your help. And just that alone, right there, that's how I was taught.
okay.
My dad, he would go outside like, hey, I got to do these brakes on the car. Come out here and hand me the tools. And I'm out there like, oh, this is pretty interesting. I like doing this. And you know, right now today, I'm a mechanic
So you bring up
for
a
the
great
DoD.
point because we used to have people who knew how to do things, who could show us how to do those things. I'm wondering, is
Yep.
that still the case? Like, do the mothers and fathers of today, for example, know how to, change the brakes or how to change a tire? Or, I mean, it's kind of hard to teach somebody something that you yourself don't know how to do. And so I'm wondering, might that be an issue that there's a generation of people who don't know how to do things. And so it's kind of hard to teach someone else something if you don't know how to do it.
Right. Well, with today's technology and everything, stuff has pretty much went to electronic. So there's still a need for it. And, I'm a father of four girls.
Hmm.
And my girls, I showed them where the oil is before they even got a car. Hey, come out here to this car. I'm going to show you. Okay, this is where the oil goes. This is where the coolant goes. This is where you keep your stuff. If you have a flat tire, this is where your jack and tire iron and all this stuff is if you need to change a flat tire. And I would actually go out there and change the oil and have them out there showing them,
I
you
remember my
know,
dad and my uncles used to do that with me as well. Yeah.
yeah. But it's one of those things, when you teach them, it keeps them from going to a mechanic and getting ripped off.
Hmm.
Perfect example. Uh, Probably about 2, 3 weeks ago, my daughter called me. Dad, they said I need brakes. I'm like, okay. Well, they're telling me it's gonna be $1,800 to get my brakes done. I'm like, $1,800. I'm like,
What are
let
they
me talk to
doing?
the guy. Yeah, I'm like, so the guy said, oh yeah, you need rotors, you need this, you need that, you need new shoes, brake drums, all this stuff. Okay, well, put her car back down, put it back, put the tires and stuff back on. She's gonna pay for it. I'll take care of it. Get the whole brake job for $200.
Hmm.
So it's just one of those things that as far as changing brakes and stuff, for a woman, it's time consuming, and you gotta have some strength, especially if you're doing it by yourself and you don't have a man. You gotta jack that vehicle up, put it on the jack stand, stuff like that. So, but for
Yeah,
young
so I don't
men,
know about how many women like doing stuff like that. Probably not most of us,
right,
but I mean, I'm sure there's
right,
some out there. But I will say that the fact that I'm at least informed, so when I go and they tell me some
yes,
ridiculous price, I know that it's a ridiculous price. So if nothing else, that information has helped me for sure. Now, whether I want
right,
to go and change it myself, nah, but I will do a tire every now and then. I had to do one not too long ago because it was just like, hey, I can wait 4 hours for AAA or I can change the tire. And so, had to
yep,
go ahead and change the tire. But it's interesting because I remember there were some issues going on with my car, and I was telling my husband, and he's not a car guy. He didn't know what to do. And it's just like, dang, do men know these type of things anymore? But I guess that there are certain ones who still enjoy that type of
yeah.
activity.
Oh yeah, I definitely enjoy it. But for a young man, I highly, to all young men out there, learn how. The one thing you want to do is learn how to work on your own automobile.
Mm,
It's nothing more satisfying than be able to do an oil change or a brake job yourself, and knowing that you did it and save yourself hundreds of dollars in the long run. So, I mean, it doesn't take much. They have, we were going to high school, they had auto shop. But,
right.
a lot of these high schools now, they don't have wood shop. They don't have auto shop. They don't have, brick mason and stuff like that. And, horticulture and, planting and stuff like that. They took all that stuff away. And that was very, it was very necessary for us growing up because it actually helped us, to develop into young men, at an early age, learning that stuff.
I'm wondering, is it not for the educational system to provide those things then? It's like, I mean, they did it and it was good at the time, but since they've taken it away, isn't it on us to figure out a different way to do it then? It's like, why couldn't the men in our community who are doing these trades have classes or have programs where the kids come in and learn those things and maybe not, fuss so much about what other people aren't doing for us? Why don't we figure out ways to do it ourselves? I don't know. That's kind of the frame of mind that I've been in lately. It's like, yes, this system, it does some crazy things and it doesn't necessarily do what's best for the people, right? But at some point, the people got to start figuring out how to do for themselves and stop waiting on somebody else to come give them something. That, get off my
Exactly.
soapbox.
Yeah, but it's funny that you say that because a lot of your junior colleges still teach
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that. If
You're
you
absolutely right. A
go,
lot of them have trade programs. Yeah.
yes, and a lot of people instead of going off to college, they go learn a trade, and they still teach that. I mean, granted, it's not going to be right down the street. You got to go find it, but it's
There
at
you go.
almost every junior college you go to offers that type of program. So it's still there. They just took it out of the high schools,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still at the junior college level.
You're absolutely right. I'm glad that you mentioned that. And that part about you got to go find it. Often people are waiting for the solution to fall into their laps. Just like, no, you have to go research and go see what's out there because there are people that are out there doing things. And I was just being facetious a second ago. I do know of some programs where there are people who are mentoring young children, teaching them art skills, teaching them recording skills. There's an organization that I work with where they're just doing a lot of that type of mentoring and teaching, the next generation those skills. So, okay. Okay,
Oh,
so
awesome.
JC didn't work out and you was like, let's try the Navy. So how did the
Yep.
Navy become the next phase?
Just because I got tired of living at home and being broke, and I was going to Del Amo Mall, applying at merry-go-round. I was applying at Pick and Save. I was applying everywhere. Nobody was hiring me, and I was like,
Mm,
if I wanted to go do something, it was kind of just didn't feel good. Still asking my mom and dad for money at 18. I was like, you know what? Let me go call this recruiter. He gave me his card. So I called him up. I said, "Hey, I want to come in and talk to you about the Navy." So of course, my dad with me as well. We went down there to the recruiting office right there on Imperial, and I think it's 118th or something like that. In
Mm,
Imperial, uh, so you had Air Force, Army, Navy, and Marine, all right there on the second level. So I walked into the Navy recruiting office, sat there and talked to the recruiter for about 2 hours about different jobs I wanted to do and what might interest me. And next thing you know, talked to my dad briefly for like 5 minutes. I was like, "Dad, what do you think?" My dad was like, "Well, it's nothing." My dad pretty much told me it's nothing for me if I stay here in
hmm.
Gardena. There
Mm-hmm.
was nothing for me except, getting in trouble, going down the wrong path, getting some little pickup job where I wasn't really making nothing. And my thing was I wanted to be on my own. I
Mm-hmm.
was tired of living at home, still under mom and dad's rule. I mean, even though you're grown, you're still under their roof.
Right.
So I ended up, going down there to Dorsey High School, raising my right hand, and October 23rd, 1995, I was on the plane heading to Great Lakes, Illinois to start 8-week boot camp.
Wow. Wow. And so you were in for how long?
I was in for 20 years.
20 years. Amazing. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah, man. I mean, anything that you learned from that experience that you feel would be beneficial for others who are listening to maybe think about or hear?
I would say any branch of service if you're undecided what you want to do, your junior and senior year in high school, the military is not a bad option. Actually, I think it's probably one of the best options out there because you're gonna granted they take you going away from home, you're gonna get broken down. So that whole civilian lifestyle, they're gonna break you down from that. They're gonna build you back up as a military man, and then you know once you graduate boot camp, it's just it's just something about when you graduate boot camp and then you come back home and you see the people you grew up with, you automatically feel out of place when you come back home
Mm,
because you're like, dang, that lifestyle don't even tempt me no more. I fall under a different set of rules and standards, and I'm now held accountable for every wrong thing that I do.
mm.
Not only by civilian police, but military police as well. Now I fall under civilian law and military law. So you just start realizing like, man, okay. And then eventually you just start separating yourself from your peers that you grew up with just because you go a completely different path than everybody else. And it's like everybody else is funny because here we are 30 years later, and I know people still doing the same thing we were doing when we were 18. You
Wow.
know, still banging, still living in their, grandmother's house that now their parents live in, that they still live in there. And, it just, it's well worth it when I look back. If I had a chance to do it again, I definitely would. It was one of the greatest moves I think I made in my career, my in my life. The rewards were so great. I mean, the pay when you start out, the pay is kind of crappy. You start out as an E1, but eventually you stay in. You do what you're supposed to do. You do what you're told. You get your qualifications. You start learning your leadership and development skills. You start moving up in rank. You start making that money. Life ain't bad in the military.
Hmm.
Life is pretty good. And not only that, the bennies out of it, free medical, free dental, VA home loan, free college. That's the biggest thing I would tell a young person right now that's going to graduate. If you're struggling about how you're going to go to college, give the military a try. You don't have to do 20 years. You could do four
Right.
years, get out, have a full pay, college tuition to wherever you want to go to school, and You can get your degree, or you can get your degree while you're still in the military, which a lot of people are doing now. They're in, they got what they call distance learning, and
Mm-hmm.
pretty much you're on deployment, you're doing college courses online on a computer.
Yeah.
And it's people getting their associates, bachelor degrees, and never set foot in a classroom. They just do it all online.
Interesting. Distance learning is something that came about as a necessity, because people commuting and traffic and all those different things that barred people from getting into a physical location. But do you feel like it's the same thing when you're doing something in your own space as opposed to doing something in the same space with someone and being guided by them? How effective do you feel distance learning has been? Are people really learning to the same excellent standard that they used to before when classes were a little more standardized than in person?
Um, yes and no. It depends on the individual. Like me myself, I did not like distance learning. I was more hands-on in the classroom, professor right there teaching the lesson. It was just for me, distance learning. I get too distracted. I get distracted
Right.
real
And
easy.
there's kind of, it's up to you to keep focused. And if you don't, then oh,
Right,
well, right?
right, right. So but then you got other people. They operate better distance learning than they do in the actual classroom. So
hmm
it
hmm
actually depends on the individual, just how their frame of mind is.
I guess so. That's true. Okay, so in the military, tell us what you did again. I know you can't tell us the specifics, but kind of what did you do and, what
Oh,
was the job?
it's not classified,
I'm just
but
saying,
I was a I was a aviation ground support equipment technician, and pretty much what we did, we worked on diesel engines, electrical power units, hydraulic units, cryogenics, um, heavy duty crash cranes. Um, we got different certifications for working on different types of wheel assemblies. So like changing tires, my job, we do that. You know, quality assurance, which is what my role is now. I'm a quality assurance inspector. So I went from wrench turning to now I just focus on policy, and I'm pretty much the last eyes to see a piece of equipment when it's repaired before it goes out the door. So
Mm.
my name is the last person to see that piece of gear and put my stamp on that paperwork, then that is certified. And it's so crazy not to kind of get off topic, but um, I know you probably heard about the aircraft that was lost on the Truman a couple of weeks back.
hmm
Well, one of the tractors that was towing the aircraft that fell off with it, there was a big investigation over that. So stuff like that, when it hits the fleet, they go back and check history records. And if your name
Right.
is
They like,
anywhere
who was
on
the
there,
last person that checked this off and why wasn't that caught?
exactly.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. So, it's a lot of responsibility, holding that position as a quality assurance representative because the buck stops here, So, it's like if you did something wrong and like somebody lose their life, you can possibly be looking at federal jail time,
Wow.
just
That's pretty heavy.
yeah, yeah. So it's a big responsibility. It's not for the faint hearted, I guess you could say. So
So being a student growing up in Gardena, did you ever imagine yourself having a position like this? I'm an instructor. I'm a teacher. I ended up growing up to be a teacher. So thank you for the training that you gave me at Crenshaw. But many of the students, they talk about, the things that they have to learn. And they're like, when am I ever going to use this in life, especially in mathematics, right? And so I'm just wondering now, looking back in hindsight, how did you think back then and how has that changed over time now to where you are?
back then I was one of those. Oh, I'm going to the NFL. I'm doing this. I was one of those guys that was, thinking that. But I always had a fascination with speed, fighter jets, Formula One race cars, motorcycles, just anything that went fast. I was always fascinated by it because that was just something I'm like, well, how does that work? How do they make it do that? So,
Mm.
once I got to, I guess, 18, 19 years old, I was like, this is the path I want to go. Because it's just something that was real fascinating. You seeing these aircraft fly by, breaking the sound barrier and turning on a dime. You just like, whoa, like, but the aerodynamics involved in that is amazing. So it's definitely, um, I would say, yeah, that's what.
You said something very interesting that I want to highlight. You said that you were interested in things that went fast, and that curiosity is what you followed. And I think
Mhm.
that if more people did that, we would have people doing jobs that they actually like to do, as opposed to people who dread waking up on Monday. Oh, I gotta go to this job. And, just like it shouldn't feel like that. Work should be
It
something
shouldn't.
that you're excited to do because you get to learn more about those things that you're curious about. You get to be around people who are interested in the same things that you are, and you grow together. But I
Yeah,
don't know. In this society, people have fallen into the trap of just doing it for the money. I gotta go to work because I gotta make a living. And it's like, but what about your life?
yeah. I'll tell you what, when I go to work every day, it doesn't even feel like work, because I'm having fun with it. I'm constantly learning, I'm training people. Um, I'm getting trained as well. I'm still learning new stuff every day. And I'm 48 years old. And, they say, oh, you learn something new every day. That's actually true. You actually do learn something new every day if you really pay attention. But
Well, if you expose yourself to new opportunities to learn too, because some people, they're so set in their pattern and their routines that they never expose themselves to something new to learn. So it's interesting.
exactly.
What else? Okay, so we talked a little bit about your position in the military.
Mhm.
What are some things that maybe you had to overcome, some obstacles that, got in your way along the way and you just had to figure out how to keep going? What are some things you've had to overcome on your way?
Um, Well, in the Navy, we have a promotion exam, which it's a test that you take. They give it every 6 months, and depending on how you score and how you perform in your actual position, depends if you're going to get promoted or not. And there was, you know, I would say probably about 4 or 5 times I made E4, which is petty officer third class. I made that my first time up. E5, it took me 2 times to make it, and E6, it took me 6 times taking
Mm,
that exam to actually get promoted. And the thing is, when those results come out and your name's not on that list, it's so heartbreaking because you really have hope and you really think you scored well and everything. And sometimes they do it by quota,
mm,
so you might have 800 people taking the exam and they might only promote 40 out of 800. So you might not make the cut for that 40, this quota. So, the next cycle come, hey, 400 people took the exam, they advanced in 300. Oh, shoot, okay, it's
that's
wide open.
interesting. So you're saying that even if you pass the test, you still might
Hmm.
not get selected because they don't have enough positions
Exactly.
available. Okay, interesting.
Exactly. Exactly. So it then comes to sometimes it comes to the position where they'll say this position is overmanned at that current pay grade. So
Mm-hmm.
they won't promote anybody. So
Mm-hmm.
you're taking the exam, you pass it, you score flying colors, but they not selecting nobody for that cycle. So but the thing is, to not get discouraged, to keep, study harder. What other qualification I got to get to put me above the rest of my peers?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you might have to get safer flight that nobody else has. That if you get this qualification, it's going to put you the number one guy out of all your peers in that pay grade. So usually that's what you aim for. You want to be that number one person where it's like, okay, you take the exam, you like, oh shoot, okay, I'm gonna get promoted. Like here we go, and then you get that promotion, and it's just so rewarding. It feel like a 5,000 pound weight just came off your shoulder when you make that next pay grade. But of course, you make that next pay grade, there come more responsibility. You know, more money,
Hmm.
more problems, they say. So,
But that's interesting
so
that you said pretty much that there is a feeling that you're like, I did this, I earned it. I think a lot of people
yep,
miss out on that with this idea of participation rewards or, thank everybody. And it's like, no, some people deserve to be acknowledged for the work or the level above and beyond that they've gone. And I
yep,
love that the military still does that because it keeps people competitive and it keeps them honest as opposed to
exactly.
people, relaxing because, maybe their friend is the one that's doing the promotion, so they know they gonna hook them up. It's like, no, if they're not the most qualified, they shouldn't be doing it.
Exactly. And they've weeded that out. So ain't no more hookups no more. You better have it on paper, black and white, or it didn't happen. So
That's what's up. Okay, well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your professional experience. I'm curious to hear more about your hobby now. You said that you are a professional rider, and I have come out to see you at the racetrack a couple of times, but tell me a little bit more about how you got into motorcycle racing.
yeah. Well, I got into motorcycle racing. I started out riding motorcycles back in 2001. I was stationed up in Whidbey Island, Washington, and I was so anti motorcycle. Like, man, y'all crazy. I ain't never getting no motorcycle. And good buddy of mine I was stationed with, we both got stationed up in Washington. He had a motorcycle, I didn't. And we're sitting on the parking lot, we just talking. Say, hey, just go ahead and sit on it. No big deal. I sat on it, started it up. Hey, take it around the parking lot. Took it around the parking lot. Next weekend, I bought one. So
You didn't
this
even
is
know
back
that
in
you liked it, huh?
Nah, I fell in love with it. I completely fell in love with it. Started riding back in 2001. Started track riding in 2006, where I just started riding on the track, just having fun. What they call it, a track day, which is the one that you went to a few times. It was a track day.
Hmm.
Um, did that, and then I wanted to start racing while I was still in the Navy, but the Navy wasn't having it. They were like,
Uh,
nope,
can't
you're
risk that.
not, nope, you're government property, you're not racing. You want to do track days, you can do it all you want, but competitive racing, nope. So when I retired November 2015, I was like, okay, now I have no more obligations to the Navy. I'm retired, and I started competing at the amateur level. So started competing there and just fell in love with the sport. Fell in love with the speed because I was, two wheels. I love to go fast, you know. So fell in love with it. Started competing. Um, I was competing at the regional level. Ended up winning a regional championship in 2019 for the West region, and then still kept competing, and then ended up winning again in 2022. So ended up bringing two championships home, and just I've been in love with the sport ever since, and I'm just trying to bring more and more people into the sport.
It's beautiful. I've come out, like you said, a couple times, and I think the thing that I was kind of proud of you for was like your sponsorship. Like you actually have a team of people that you work with, and this is like, okay, he really doing this now,
Yeah.
And you regularly are out there, I see your videos that you're posting. I said I don't like some of the camera views though. Some of them views you had a one that's show your booty. I was like, I want to look at your crack of your butt. But I know you have on your whole little You have on the whole suit, but still, I was like, I don't like that view. I like the one in the front where you can see the curves and
Yeah,
your knee gets down and
yeah.
be scraping. I'm like, oh my goodness, that just looks. It's like it looks like it defies physics. I'm like, how do you guys do that? That's crazy. But I'm
It
happy that
actually
you
does.
are doing what you love. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love it. Just the speed and adrenaline doing that stuff, and it's crazy because you would think when you go to the track, the speeds that we're going, taking those corners at high speed, it's actually safer me being a motorcycle racer on the racetrack than it is me riding on a regular street.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Because
know,
that other element of people on the street, other drivers.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when I talk to people, you know, yeah, people come up, oh yeah, I'm a fast canyon rider. This and I'm like, I try and get people out of the canyons.
Mm.
Racing on the highway and going through the canyons. It's you're playing Russian roulette. You got people crossing over the yellow. You got loose gravel on the pavement. You got a big giant mountain that doesn't give if you hit it. You got guardrails that don't give if you hit it. And the major thing is at the track. If I happen to go down within 30 seconds to a minute, EMT is right there on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
They're making sure you're okay, you're getting your bike picked up. If you go down in one of these canyons, you might be there for hours
That's true.
before somebody even know that you went down and that you hurt, and then how long it takes them to get up that canyon just to get to you. You might be sitting there, bleeding out, or got a severely broken bones, or something that's critical that you need immediate attention. If you're at the racetrack, they picking you up, you going to the ER, and you getting treated within minutes. Versus being on the highway where it might be hours. You can end up dying out there. So it's not really worth it. What I tell people that riding the canyons, leave that canyon life alone. This street racing, leave that street racing alone. My family's out there on the highway. Your family's out there on the highway. Just driving. You got somebody road racing and stuff that's putting your life in danger and their life in danger. It's not worth it.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I have a couple of friends who ride, and I'm just like, you know what? The fact that anybody is riding on two wheels without something around them, I'm like, yeah, y'all got it. Go ahead. No, but I've been a passenger on a motorcycle, but I don't think I would want to
Okay.
ride one by myself.
Nah. Well, you gotta if you have any bit of fear about riding motorcycles, stay away from it.
Yeah,
Because if you're not mentally focused on what you're doing, it's a recipe for disaster. So if you got any kind of fear, just leave it alone.
I agree with that. That's good advice right there. Speaking
You
of good advice, what is something that, now all these years of wisdom you have accumulated, something that you know now that you wish you would have known when you were younger?
Ooh, how long we got?
I'm just saying, start where you start. Let's see where it
uh,
goes.
well, you know, um, something I wish younger. I wish I would have bought a home when I was younger.
Interesting.
Instead of spending all this money on cars and rims and sound systems and all this different stuff that, really depreciated, take my money and, you know, buy property.
Hmm.
Not only that, I mean, I wish I would have jumped on Bitcoin back in 2010 when it was 30 cents a share. You know, everybody was talking about it. I was like, oh, Bitcoin, what's Bitcoin? If I would have could go back and tell myself, take you $10,000 and go buy all that Bitcoin that you want, you will thank me later.
Hmm.
So yeah, that
Hindsight's
would
2020.
yeah, I would. That's what I would do.
All right. Well, thinking about where you are right now, what is
Mhm.
next for you? So you mentioned also, wait a minute, you mentioned family. I can't let this part go. So you are a father of four, which means that you
Yep.
probably have someone that you've been building a life with. I want to talk about that for a
Yeah.
second because often
Okay.
we don't talk about what it's like to grow and build with someone as you're on the way to where you're going, right? So let's hear about you and your family, sir. I'd love to hear about, how you decided that you were ready to start a family and then that process of becoming a father while still maintaining your professional life and your hobbies as well, right? Talk about it. Let me hear.
Yes.
I think you just posted your one of your grandsons had a birthday the other day or something, right?
Yeah. Yes, we did. Just turned 7. Um. So yeah. My wife, Kimberly. We grew up. It's funny. We grew up right around the corner from each other. So it was kind of like that love and basketball where I could go outside my house in the backyard, jump over the fence, and her house was right there on the other
Okay.
side of the block. So, we grew up, teasing each other. You know, I would go over, I would, punch her a couple of times. She would hit me a couple of times. We'd go hang out at the mall, little stuff like that. And then I had went on deployment in August of 1996. I went on deployment and I went to go see her the night before I went on deployment. And we talked and everything. And I asked her, if she wanted to get married, and she's like, no, boy, all right, I'm going on deployment tomorrow. All right, cool.
Why would you ask if
So,
you about to leave? What the hell?
it was my first deployment. So, I'm scared and everything else. I'm like, I don't know what to expect. So, I go on deployment, come back, and I come back and I give her a call the day I come back. I'm like, hey, I'm back in town. So we go out to TGI Fridays, we go hang out. The next day, we ended up getting together, and May 21st, 1999, we got married. Um, and I'll tell you what, it's been a roller coaster ride. Being married and being in the military, being deployed, and
Mhm.
then had my first daughter, Ashley, had her, well, no, Asia, 1994, and then my daughter Ashley, December, New Year's, December 30th, 1997. She was born, and she was born in a little company in Marion, Torrance. So welcome her in, and I was stationed in Florida for school. Came back, got orders back to USS Constellation in San Diego, California, aircraft carrier. And next thing you know, we're get orders to Whidbey Island, Washington, and wife not feeling good. Um, well, let me go back. Let me go back. I'm getting ready to go. I find out my wife is pregnant again. I'm getting ready to go on deployment on the Constellation. And my second daughter, Amani, she was born September 20th, 1999. So 97, 99. So
Mhm.
1999, she was born while I was on deployment. And got the news like at 2 in the morning. They come tell me, hey, we got a Red Cross message. Congratulations, you're a father of a baby girl. Another
Wow.
girl. Okay. That's 2 girls. I'm like, okay. Get orders to Whidbey Island, Washington. Just sitting up one night, wife's not feeling good. Take her to the ER. Oh, yeah, by the way, you're pregnant. What? Wait a minute, hold on. Again? Yep. So Ariana, she was born Christmas Day of 2000. So here it is. I'm a girl dad. So yeah, 4 girls. Um, and life has been an experience having four daughters. I mean, daddy's girls they are, but whoo, attitude, growing up, mood swings. I was glad I had a motorcycle from time to time. I was like, I'm leaving y'all here.
Yeah, so you have to have something to do so you can get away sometimes, huh?
Yes, ma'am. Had
That's
to, but
hilarious.
they definitely kept me grounded, and I didn't know how crazy a father can get. I used to always hear growing up, "Oh, don't mess with her. Her father gonna kill you," and I'll be like, "Ain't gonna do nothing." I had to put them boots on. Like, wait a minute, he did. He said what? Okay, so I had to snap a couple of times. Like, wait, who said it? Okay, well, let me know where they at. We go find it. Okay, but so being a father of girls, you definitely have that defense mechanism. Like, hey, don't mess with my girls.
Hmm.
You know. I mean, it was a couple of times. People, say something to the wife. Like what? They said what? Hold on, who said it? Like, really? Okay. So you just go into that you know defense mode. Like, okay, well, you know what? You ain't gonna mess with mine. So. But it's been a joy having
I
those
think
girls. I
that's one
mean,
of the value of having a man in your life who, cares that you have that instant protector or what have you, because that's the instinct that most men have around about the women in the life, about the women
yeah,
in their life. Yeah.
yes,
Hmm.
yeah.
So as a
So,
girl dad, what would you say is the best or the most the thing that you've learned that you want to share to other girl dads? This is about sharing what learned, what we've come across, and this and that.
ooh, I would say one valuable lesson I learned is, and I learned it the hard way. Your girls are always looking at you, so how you treat their mother is
Mm.
how they're going to expect other men to treat them. And I had to learn that the hard way because, I wouldn't always in my right mind. I did some stuff that was wrong from time to time. And the crazy thing was my girls were watching me the whole
Yeah,
time.
children are watching.
And, and I would get little bits and pieces here and there. Like, dang, I remember I did that. Shoot. Okay. Just stories they would tell me and stuff. I just be like, oh man, like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Okay. So yeah, just you know, be watchful because they're watching. They're watching your every move. And the person that they choose is gonna be the person that resembles you.
Hmm.
So
Interesting. So that makes me wonder, like, did somebody bring somebody home that resembled you and you was like, what the heck is this? And she was like, but you do it, or did something like that happen? I'm
yeah, it was one guy. I was just like, nah, I'm warm and fuzzy about him. But the crazy thing was some of the stuff that he resembled, it was stuff that I did. Like
right.
back in the day, even when I wasn't married, just stuff I did in high school and stuff that, I would hear about and I was like, dang, I used to do that same thing. I'm like, nah, stay away from them. Nah, I don't like that. Mm-mm. Nope, that's not good.
That sounds like game recognized game right there. Like, ah, nah.
Yeah, yeah, like nah, you know, nah, leave that guy alone. He ain't no good.
That is
But
hilarious.
overall, I let them make their choices,
Mhm.
and they do call me for advice, or they'll call their mom for advice, and we just give advice. We ain't gonna say what you should do this or you should do that. Hey, let you live your life. You're gonna have to trip and fall sometimes, to learn. And a lot of things we told them, they go the complete opposite. We like, dang, didn't we tell her that? and then they'll come back like, "Dang, mom and dad, you were right." Like I know we were right. Like,
Like that's what I was telling you, because I've been through it before. I might know something,
yeah,
right?
I've lived that life, so I know what these guys are up to. So you know,
That is funny. Well, you know what? I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. Just hearing how you were able to matriculate coming up in Gardena, but then figuring out the Navy was your way out and doing a great job now, being the quality control inspector. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I am so proud of you,
yeah,
my friend.
yep, yep. Thank you very much. I so appreciate you and congratulations on your podcast and your music career and everything. And shoot, you're still doing the thing. So I also see your videos streaming on YouTube and stuff like that, or Apple Music and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Congratulations to you as well.
Well, thank you.
And
That's my creative side. Just like you have your motorcycles, I have my music, and it keeps me grounded
yeah,
and keeps me just being able to express those things that you can't necessarily express in other spaces, right? Yeah.
right, right. And are you still at Northridge?
Yeah, I did a semester at Northridge, but I worked there going out to different schools in the area and also doing some stuff with some other things through the chancellor's office as well.
Okay, 'cause my youngest daughter just graduated from there, and she's going there pursuing her master's now.
Wonderful. Yeah, a cohort that I taught is graduating this Saturday, actually. So,
Okay.
yeah. All
Yep. Awesome.
right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. We have heard it straight from the source's mouth. And with that, I will bid you adieu. I'm just
All
going to start
right.
recording now.
Okay.